Some of the other disciples came around to visit Dad late last night. I heard them talking while I was pretending to be asleep. They were talking about what happened after they all fled from the garden where Jesus was arrested. Bartholomew was just beside himself. I heard him say, "But Matthew, you don't understand. They took him to Caiaphas, and then to Pilate, and Herod, and back to Pilate." And my dad said, "Well, I've met Pilate. He's a reasonable man. He won't let that happen." And then, in the early hours, I was woken again when Simon Peter came in. He didn't say anything. All the disciples just dropped their heads, and a few hugged each other. Mum said I wasn't to go, but I snuck out anyway. Oh, no one was home. Everyone seemed to be lining the streets, waiting. Some were crying. Some were rocking back and forth, seemingly in shock. Others were talking amongst themselves and shaking their heads disbelievingly. A cry was held, and we all looked up, and a procession of soldiers appeared, some at the front and a smaller group at the back. They were pushing aside the crowd, who had suddenly become vocal. Some were yelling abuse at the soldiers, but even more seemed to be yelling obscenities at the person they were pushing along. Slowly, it seemed. It was as if he kept falling over, and they kept having to stand him back up again. And then I saw him. I now know why Mum said I shouldn't have gone. It wasn't the sight a 14-year-old girl should see. It wasn't the Jesus I remembered. The one who visited our house, the home of a tax collector. The one whose smile lit up the hearts of all the kids on the hillside that day when the disciples tried to shoo them away. The one who told so many wonderful stories of love, joy, and peace. The one who showed so many people a glimpse of heaven. This Jesus was torn, bloodied, broken. He wore a purple gown, kind of like that of the king. But underneath it, you could see the scars of where his flesh had been pulled apart by the lashes he had obviously been dealt. He was wearing a crown made out of thorns, and occasionally someone in the crowd would abuse him and hit him and his head and those thorns with a stick. and they'd call him the most horrible names I'd ever heard. As he passed, I called out his name, and he fell. I almost felt responsible. He looked up at me, and I mouthed the word, "Why?" He just looked at me and said nothing. It wasn't a look that I can describe, but one I'll never forget. It was like, in that moment, I was looking into the eyes of God. They're leading him to Golgotha, the place of the skull, where he's going to be crucified. That is a punishment for the worst of people, the most undeserving of life, for those who have committed crimes against humanity. I ran as fast as I could, and I came home and I just cried. After a while, Mum came too, and we just cried together. He was supposed to be our promised Messiah. He was supposed to be our King. He was supposed to save us. But instead, he left us.